Want to become a cloud engineer, a solutions architect, a DevOps engineer, or even build AI solutions in the cloud? Then the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate certification should be on the top of your list. In this video, I'll explain why it's one of the most valuable certifications for launching and advancing your cloud career. Hi, I'm Rajesh, Senior Solutions Architect, author, and technical trainer with over 20 years of industry experience. I've worked with organizations of all sizes to design cloud solutions, and I've helped thousands of learners start and advance their cloud careers. In this video, I'll show you exactly what the certification covers, who is it for, and why is it a game changer for your cloud career. Now, everyone says certifications aren't enough and that you really need real-world experience, and they're not wrong. But before you gain experience, you need to know what to learn, what to build, and how cloud solutions fit together. That's exactly what the AWS Certified Solutions Architect certification helps you to do. Now, if you're trying to develop a new skill and you find yourself constantly extending it, if you are trying to learn something new and it's just not happening, then you need to follow the SMART framework, and that is to set SMART goals. Now, SMART goals basically allow you to define goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and above all, time-bound. You need to take your goals and break them into manageable chunks. You need to be able to track your progress and celebrate small wins. And ultimately, if there are any setbacks, you need to look at them as learning experiences rather than total failure. Okay, so let's take a look at this in some more detail. Why is the Solutions Architect Associate certification the smartest career foundation certificate for 2026? Essentially, whether you're trying to become a cloud engineer or DevOps or get into SRE or Gen AI, it all starts with infrastructure and architecture. I'd like to show you some job listings and showcase just how important this certification actually is. Let's do that next. Okay, so here's a job advert I want to show you. I picked it up from LinkedIn. So the job title is AWS Infra and Platform Architect. It's based in Bengaluru, Hyderabad, that's India. And some key skills include things like infrastructure, IAC, firewall, Terraform, Kubernetes, and CloudFormation. Let's go through the job description. Let's go through the core requirements. So the first thing is you need expertise in infrastructure setup, creation of landing zone, setup direct connect, and VPN. These are core infrastructure services around networking and creation of multi-account architectures on AWS. Expertise in networking and security components within AWS. Quite frankly, regardless of the role that you're applying for, having a strong foundation in security measures, best practices, and protocols is paramount. Designing and developing cloud-based systems using CloudFormation or Terraform. Now, CloudFormation and Terraform are infrastructure as code products. So essentially, rather than using the AWS Management Console and the user interface and mouse clicks to provision your resources like compute, network storage, and databases, you write code. With CloudFormation, you'll be writing code in JSON or YAML, and then you'll be supplying that code to CloudFormation to provision the resources for you. The good thing about infrastructure as code is, instead of manually creating all those resources and having to remember all those configuration options, you've got it written down in code so that the service, CloudFormation in this case, can build it out for you, which makes it repeatable, consistent, reliable. And if you're building out 50, 100, 1,000 different similar infrastructure architectures, well, you don't have to keep using mouse clicks and going through the visual interface all the time. Now, there's another product, Terraform, which is industry standard. It's really popular because it's vendor agnostic. You can use it across AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, whatever it might be. And so it is a much sought after skill set. But you've got CloudFormation or Terraform. So if you've got CloudFormation skills, you can definitely apply for this role. There is knowledge of IP networking, VPN, load balancing, and firewalling, core infrastructure services that you need to learn about in order to work on AWS. There's familiarity with design and configuration of monitoring tools like CloudWatch and CloudTrail. These are really important skills that you need to have, whether you're a cloud engineer or an AI architect working on AWS, because you'll be using these tools regardless of your role. There is a requirement for having an in-depth understanding of cloud architecture, ability to advise work on end-to-end cloud infrastructure. Now, you need to have used and played around with all those different AWS services, looked at business problems, and then articulated those into technology solutions, bringing in all those different services to work together to build that final solution. In this particular instance, you need to be able to be critical and analytical in which services you use, which products you use, which technology you use, which are more reliable, which are scalable, which are more cost effective, that kind of thing, bringing them all together to build your solution. Another requirement is designing and implementing disaster recovery architecture. We need to be careful that if we have a major outage, what happens then? How do we recover from a disaster? What's our business continuity plan? Those are critical skill sets as well. Here's another one. Conversant with the best practices of cloud security and scalability, should be well versed and knowledgeable on the pillars of the well-architected framework. Now, the well-architected framework forms a foundation of the AWS Certified Solutions Architect capability, and is something, therefore, that you will need to learn and use on a day-to-day basis. Essentially, it's a series of best practices that you need to follow when you're building out solutions in the cloud. Experience and knowledge in container technologies like Docker and Kubernetes. So you need to be able to work with containers as well, not just virtual machines, and you need to have some understanding and capability in Docker and Kubernetes. Now, to be honest, you've got AWS that offers you EKS, which is Elastic Kubernetes Service. And so you can easily start learning Kubernetes there initially, and then later move on to more advanced learnings on Kubernetes itself. All of these different services, all of these different requirements point to the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate as your base certification. Let's take a look at another job description. Okay, so here's another job description. This is for a lead site reliability engineer based in London. Now, quite frankly, this is a role that someone who has some site reliability engineering experience should be applying for. But I wanted to show you this particular job advert because I wanted to showcase the foundational skills that you would need to have. So if you're trying to get into cloud computing, if you are perhaps in IT already and want to move to cloud computing, if you're a graduate, maybe with computer science, and you want to get into cloud, then those foundational skills are something you still need to have regardless of whichever role you go for. So let's take a look at some of those skills that you need. So the first one is deep AWS experience across EC2, EKS, Lambda, VPC, DynamoDB, S3, CloudFront, RDS, IAM, KMS, and more. And you can clearly see that the core foundational services are something that you have had experience with, that you should have worked with in order to apply for this role. Proficiency in Terraform, CloudFormation, and AWS CDK. There's CloudFormation again. So CloudFormation is AWS native. And if you are learning CloudFormation, you are able to build out infrastructure as code solutions only on AWS. And so you may start off with CloudFormation, gain some experience in that, but then subsequently you should be also moving into something like Terraform as you progress your career. Excellent documentation and communication skills. Now, quite frankly, the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate certification is one that gives you the opportunity to learn about these core services from an architectural perspective, from the perspective of how you should design solutions, and documentation becomes clearly a very important skill set that you need to develop. Strong analytical and troubleshooting abilities. Now, when you build solutions in the cloud, things are going to go wrong, okay? Or they might be working for a few weeks, a few months, and then suddenly there's some issue. Something has happened, something has changed, there's been an update, and now you've got to troubleshoot it and find the root cause of that problem. Those are skill sets that, again, you will develop if you have those foundational capabilities, if you have the understanding and the experience of working with those foundational services. Ultimately, they all point to the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate certification as your core base foundation cert. Let's take a look at one more job description. Okay, so here's another job description. Now, this is for an AI solutions architect, Microsoft Copilot, chatbot development, and AWS, and it's based in the United States. Initially, this may seem like, hang on, why are we even looking at this particular role? Because it seems to be more focused on Copilot, Azure, and LLM platforms. But the fact is, the requirement for this job includes some AWS services, and those services that you need to learn about on AWS are those core foundational services. So let's take a look at this anyway. So you need expertise in AWS cloud architecture and DevOps practices. In other words, as a core foundational capability, one of the requirements are the ability to understand AWS, to have used AWS and its core services to potentially build out solutions and your architecture. Another one is experience in CI/CD pipelines, containerization, and we're back to the infrastructure as code again. So as your foundational development and learning experience, you could be doing something like CloudFormation and then moving on into Terraform. Or at the very least, you could learn about AWS core infrastructure services from compute, network storage, and databases, as well as all of the other peripheral services that allow you to build end-to-end solutions, and then go ahead and, as your next learning exercise, start with Terraform. So you can develop Terraform skill sets and build your solution using code. Certification in AWS architecture clearly says that it's a preferred qualification, as well as Azure AI solutions as well. And strong communication and stakeholder management skills. Now, these are skills you'll develop as you learn about what an architect's role is, how he or she interacts with, the wider audience, the end clients, manage stakeholders, set customer expectations and manage them more efficiently, and build out solutions to fulfill business problems. Essentially, the reason for showing you this particular job description is that although potentially you would only apply for it if you had experience with the Azure platform as well, like Azure OpenAI, Microsoft Copilot, you could easily transition into this role if you had a base foundational capability in AWS. If you have the architecture skills on AWS, you can proceed to plan out your career roadmap in such a way so that you can add Azure subsequently and Azure skill sets subsequently, and then in the future apply for a role like this. Those 4 skill sets essentially point to the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate certification as your base ground level foundational capability and skill set. So we had a look at those job descriptions, and you saw very clearly that some of the foundational capabilities of applying any of those roles was experience with AWS core infrastructure services. And those can be achieved by taking the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate training program and subsequently passing the certification. Now, I'll be honest with you, businesses don't actually care about your certs. You could have a couple of certs, you could have 200 certs. It really doesn't matter. What certs do is allow you to stay grounded, focused, and set your trajectory in a way so that you're able to fulfill all of those core requirements that businesses have. But how you learn about those technologies, how you study for those certifications is going to matter. The other thing is, when businesses hire you, they're looking for what kind of impact you can have to the organization, whether you can make them even more profitable. That's the bottom line. So essentially, what they're looking for is experts who are billable. They should be able to contract out your services, your skill sets, your abilities to their customers so that they can earn a revenue from it. They need you to therefore be confident in working with clients. That's going to only happen if you have been playing with the technology, if you've been building out solutions. Even if you're new to cloud, even if you're new to tech, if you've been building out your own portfolio of projects and being able to showcase and demonstrate and defend it, then quite frankly, you're going to have the confidence to talk to those clients. You're going to need to have excellent presentation and communication skills because you need to explain technical stuff to potentially non-technical individuals. And especially when you're working with customers, you need to be able to articulate your solutions so that they're able to understand how it's going to impact their business. You need to have the confidence in designing and building solutions. That's only going to come through practice, practice, practice. So the more you work with the technology, the better you will get at it. Confidence in solving problems. Again, without you actually having hands-on experience, that confidence isn't going to come, right? So you need to play with the technology. You need to actually develop those skill sets in working and troubleshooting with the solutions that you build out. The AWS certification that you take is going to keep you grounded. It's going to give you a direction into how you work with those technologies. Stakeholder management. This is something that is really, really critical, regardless of whether you're a back-end developer, a server room administrator, or a solutions architect, client-facing. You're going to need to talk to customers. Those could be internal customers or external customers, and you need to be able to handle your stakeholders efficiently. And so if you take a look at how companies actually use your services, okay, they may send out a proposal that's got various different price points for your services. So as a solutions architect, they may be charging you out at $1,500 a day rate, okay? And, you're going to spend the next 5 days and building a solution for that customer. So there, they would be able to charge for your services $7,500 to the client. Or if you're a cloud engineer, maybe your day rate that they're contracting you out to the customer is $900, and you're going to spend 12 days engineering the solution. So then they'll be able to charge $10,800 to the customer. you can see that essentially your services are basically being contracted out, are basically being sold to their customer. And that's how the business makes money. That's how they earn their revenue. And ultimately, they're able to afford your salary. It's as simple as that. So next, what I'd like to do is walk you through a strategy to develop a career roadmap in terms of your training program so that you can upskill into a specific role in cloud computing that you are hoping to achieve. And for that, we use something called the T model. So the T model basically describes a professional who has deep expertise in one specific area, what we call the vertical bar of the T, and a broad knowledge across multiple related disciplines, the horizontal bar of the T, enabling effective collaboration and problem solving across domains. In cloud computing context, the foundation cloud skills often represent this horizontal bar, providing broad knowledge across areas such as networking, security, compute, storage, databases, architecture, reliability, cost optimization, while the vertical bar represents expertise in a specific area such as cloud architecture, DevOps, security, data engineering, AI, ML, or platform engineering. So let's take a look at the horizontal and vertical bars in more detail. So for the horizontal bar, the breadth, the foundations of any cloud role that you want to take on is as follows. You need to have good, solid understanding and capabilities in compute, network, storage, and database services. These form the 4 pillars of any cloud solution that you get involved in, either as a DevOps engineer, a cloud architect, a cloud engineer, an AI engineer, whatever the role. It really doesn't matter. These 4 key foundational skills are really important. You then have security. Now, regardless of the role that you take, whether you're a junior support analyst or a principal cloud architect, security is going to be paramount. So understanding security principles and applying security measures, protocols, and best practices at all layers of the application is critically important. And you need to develop skills in working and thinking about security from first principles basis. You also need to start thinking about architecture. If you understand the architecture of your application, which components, which services, which technologies actually form the foundations and provide the necessary services to fuel your application, then you are in a good place. Next, you need to think about cost optimization. Even if you're a support analyst or you're a principal cloud architect, you're going to have to think about how whatever it is that you're doing, what you're creating, what you're building, how costly it's going to be, what's going to be the business impact in terms of the actual cost of using or having that solution in place. So next is reliability and resilience. And this is another key important aspect of anyone wanting to build and have a cloud career. Anything that you build in the cloud needs to be reliable, needs to be resilient, needs to be available at all times. And so high availability is another important aspect of your design pattern when you're building solutions in the cloud. And then there is scalability as well. Can your application serve 10 users and then can it scale to serving 10 million users? How do you handle that? Those sort of skill sets you're only really going to be able to get when you start building solutions in the cloud, when you start thinking architecturally, when you start looking at how all of those different services and the resources that they can be used to provision can be changed together to build an end-to-end solution. And then let's not forget about DR and BCP, right? Disaster recovery and business continuity planning. As a cloud engineer, as a cloud architect, solutions architect, AI engineer, you want to make sure that if disaster does strike, then you are able to recover from it and you're able to continue business operations accordingly. So how you build your solution for DR and BCP is another important factor. Now, all of these different services, all of these different strategies, and all of these different pillars that we spoke about earlier are all taught to you as part of the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate program. And it really depends on where you're taking your course and how you're studying this particular certification. And we'll talk more about that shortly, but ultimately every one of these different core aspects is part of that cert. Now, in addition to this, there are a few other skills that you need to have either as a prerequisite, or you certainly should consider building on those skills in parallel to you preparing for the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate certification. And the first one is Linux. Now, Linux is operating system of the cloud. Most applications run on Linux systems. And so getting a good hands-on experience with Linux, and you don't need to be some massive Linux guru, but definitely up to the point where you can manage your EC2 instances, your virtual machines in the cloud is really important. The next one is Python. Now, again, you don't need to be a solid developer and build applications from scratch using Python, but having a bit of experience with Python in terms of just being able to run a few scripts, make changes to certain scripts is going to be really, really handy. And then some experience in SQL will be really nice as well, although not exactly mandatory, but this will definitely help you along the way. So this represents the horizontal bar, the breadth, the foundations of you becoming a cloud engineer, solutions architect, cloud architect, whatever the role in cloud you're looking to hope to become. There are several other skills that you need to have when you start thinking about building that specialization and that depth, the vertical bar of that T. So I've just indicated what some of those skills are. And next, what I want to do is showcase that depending on the track that you take, depending on the role that you're seeking, where these technologies may be useful. So we'll take a look at DevOps first, which is been traditionally a very sought after career role for many engineers out there. Now, in order to be able to become a DevOps engineer, you definitely would need some skills in Git and GitHub Actions or any kind of CI/CD pipelining versioning toolkit that you have. Jenkins is another one that's really popular with a lot of on-premise workloads, but also cloud. And then you can see we've got Terraform as well. Terraform is infrastructure as code. You build your entire infrastructure using these coded templates, using declarative language, and be in a position to roll out your architecture using those templates rather than manually clicking things in a user interface in, say, the AWS Management Console. Docker and Kubernetes are critically important for anyone thinking of becoming a DevOps engineer. So that's something you really need to deep dive into if that's the role, if that's the career path that you're seeking. The next career path is a site reliability engineer. This is where you are actually monitoring your workloads. You are actually looking at whether your workloads are optimal, are performing up to expectations, that they don't fail and, break up and stuff like that. You want to make sure that everything is running smoothly. As a site reliability engineer, you're going to be worried about service level objectives, service level indicators, SLA service level agreements. And again, your Terraform is going to be really critical in you managing those architectural infrastructure components that support your application. But you need to deep dive a bit more into things like observability and monitoring. Now, Grafana and Prometheus are typical tools that are used in the industry for this and are available as part of the AWS ecosystem as well. Next, there's Gen AI and ML. And so if you want to become a Gen AI architect, a Gen AI engineer, or go down the machine learning route, then obviously there are other pieces of technology and services you need to be really deep diving into. So data pipelines, model training, building Gen AI solutions using the AWS suite of artificial intelligence products, maybe even getting into ML ops, which is becoming really popular as well. And then obviously we have a solutions architect. Now, a solutions architect is someone who can work across multiple different disciplines, multiple different technologies in order to come up with a solution to a specific business requirement. And again, in addition to that horizontal bar, in addition to those core services, you need to start thinking about deep diving into things like Terraform, Docker and Kubernetes, and maybe even working towards becoming an enterprise architect, learning the skills and framework around things like TOGAF, for example. Ultimately, what many people do wrong is that they jump straight into the vertical bar. So they start learning Kubernetes without understanding networking, learn Terraform without knowing about architectural trade-offs, or try to learn AI tools without really understanding how cloud systems scale, right? That isn't the right approach. You really need to get those foundational skills cemented in and under your belt, and then after that move down a specialized track that you are passionate about. So the T model is all about building wide cloud fundamentals first and then go deeper into one specific role, not the other way around. And so ultimately you want to think about the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate certification as one that is not going to make you a DevOps or a Gen AI expert, but it's certainly going to make you architecturally fluent so that any of these specialized roles that you want to subsequently get into is going to be easy and achievable. Okay, so the next obvious question is, where do you actually go to learn to prepare for the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate exam? And quite frankly, you're going to be spoiled for choice. There are lots of different providers out there, lots of different platforms to learn from, but the one that you choose is going to be really, really critical. Because you're not just preparing for the exam, you're preparing for the real world. You need to be able to prove in an interview to hiring managers and recruiters that you can actually do the job. So the platform and the training program that you choose should prepare you for the exam and also give you lots of hands-on experience so that you can confidently ace that interview. Next, I'm going to go ahead and compare different options that you have available. So let's do that. Okay, so let's take a look at the different options you have available. The first one that I want to highlight is the AWS Skill Builder platform. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is an absolutely brilliant platform. It's direct from AWS and therefore it's official. It gives you access to a wide range of different training resources and materials that's going to help you prepare for the exam and also allow you to focus on specific areas that you might be interested in. They've got training materials for specific technologies, but also focused on certification tracks. So depending on what it is that you're trying to do, you've got different options available. The best part about the Skill Builder program is that it gives you access to Builder Labs, Cloud Quest, Jams, and Simulants. These are different ways of engaging you as a learner so that you can expedite your training and learning experience. And again, you've also got access to official AWS practice exams, which means you can confidently enter that exam room once you've completed them successfully. However, you should bear in mind that it's fully self-paced. So the onus is on you to be disciplined to learn through the materials and prepare for the exam or the specific technology that you're working in. So from a cohort accountability point of view, there is none. You've got solo learning, you're in charge, and you need to plan out your study routine effectively. Next, you've got Udemy courses. Now, Udemy courses is another on-demand third-party video platform. And essentially what you get with Udemy is access to different instructors who come and create courses and bring with them lots of industry experience. A lot of the courses that are delivered by these instructors include some of those experiences that they share, which allows you to see what things are like in the real world, which is important as well. Again, it's self-paced, which means that the onus is on you to complete the training program. However, there are no live instructor Q&As. Now, Udemy does have a Q&A platform that allows you to post questions and your instructor may respond to you within 4, 12, or 24 hours or whatever it is that they agree to do. So some instructors are very diligent about this and they ensure that they answer queries that are posted by the learners. It is structured and is searchable as well. So this means that you can go through the training materials and identify any specific topic that you want to revisit. So it's good that way. A lot of the videos are short videos, which means that they're easy to digest. Now, when it comes to hands-on real-world projects, a lot of instructors do include lots of labs, lots of exercises, and some go out and above by creating full capstone projects. Now, these projects include end-to-end solutions, so you can see how different technologies are being used to build your entire architecture or your solution, if you will. Many of the courses will also include some quizzes and some practice exam simulators. However, these are usually restricted in the video courses in how many practice exams you can have. So those instructors will go ahead and create additional courses that are specifically practice exam simulator courses. So you will need to potentially purchase them separately. Again, the cohort accountability is none. It's solo learning. You're in charge. You're responsible for designing your study plan and sticking to it. Next, we've got live bootcamps. Now, these are live instructor-led training, and they're usually available online through Zoom, Teams, or Google Meet, or you go to the actual provider's site, their education center, to go through that training program. It's live, which means you get to ask the instructor questions at that time that the training is being delivered, which is absolutely brilliant because you can clear your doubts instantly. Now, when it comes to hands-on projects, that will vary from provider to provider. A lot of them will give you access to labs, exercises, and some even include end-to-end capstone projects, which is really brilliant. This is something you really need to research before you enroll into the course. Some providers will also give you access to practice exam simulators, which is really helpful in preparing for the exam. And obviously, with live bootcamps, there is cohort accountability. What this means is that the provider is going to be focused on ensuring that you complete the course so that you see value in that live instructor-led training solution. So that's something that you want to consider if you need to be nudged, if you need to be guided through by an instructor in completing the program. Some of them will also provide job search support like CV rewrites, LinkedIn profiling, and obviously giving you mock interviews. But this is again dependent on provider to provider. You need to do a bit of research there as well. Live bootcamps tend to be very expensive, so you may wish to consider whether your employer is going to be able to fund your training costs there. The only thing about live bootcamp is that usually they're very short. Okay, if you're using AWS official training materials, then usually they'll span from 3 to 5 days. And as a result of that, it can be quite intensive and can be heavily focused on you being able to clear the exam rather than thinking about real world experiences. So that's something you want to watch out for when you're choosing a provider. So next I want to talk to you about the AWS Accelerator program that we're offering at the IIS Academy. Now this is a blended learning program. And what we thought here was that you needed access to the video content so that you can go through all of the materials at your own pace. But at the same time, you also can benefit from live instructor-led training that focus more on the core fundamentals, on the core technologies that are going to come up in the exam, but also going to prepare you for the real world. So you've got the full on-demand course with all of the topics covered to prepare you for the exam, but the live cohort is designed to help you learn real-world experiences through labs, exercises, capstone projects that you will complete during the course. Now, the AWS Accelerator that we're running at the IIS Academy runs for 25 days specifically. So it's 2 hours a day, Monday to Friday. And essentially in those 2 hours, what we're doing is we're supplementing the video course. Okay, we're looking at more concepts around real world solutions. We're looking at architecture. We're looking at troubleshooting. We're looking at how you can fix things that are broken. Those type of things are covered in the live training. And then we allow you to go through the videos to make sure that you cover all of the peripheral services that are likely to show up in the exam. So you get the best of both worlds. You get to prepare for the exam, but you also get to spend time with the instructor to learn about real-world use cases, scenarios, and methodologies in coming up with solutions for business problems. Now, this instructor program comes with 4 capstone projects, which you build in your AWS account. This is a live, real AWS account using the free plan tier. And ultimately, what it means is it's not sandboxed. It's not restricted to specific activities alone. In addition to that, you will also get access to 390 practice exam questions as your practice exam simulator from a well-renowned provider. When it comes to code accountability, we're going to make sure that you complete the course. We're going to nudge you, chase you, get you to actually focus on the learning materials and help you along the way to ensure that by the time you complete the course, you're well prepared to enter the exam room. There's also a VIP add-on, which gives you access to 6 months of mentorship directly from me. I'm going to personally work with you over a span of 13 weeks to help you in your career journey and your career pathway. And that's going to involve spending the first 3 weeks on focusing on clearing the exam. So we're going to do lots of revision session. You're going to do lots of exam questions, and you're going to be able to enter the exam room really confident. Post that, we're going to move ahead and actually build another capstone project. So this is going to be a 5th capstone project, but this is going to be a proper real world role play exercise where you're going to take the role of an architect and I'm going to take the role of the client, which means that I'm going to present you with a problem. You're going to have to come up with a solution, and you're going to have to go through the motions of how you would act in the real world as an architect, carrying out a requirements gathering exercise, designing your solution, proposing your solution, presenting your solution, and if I approve, you go ahead and actually implement the solution as well. This is something that's really important in giving you the confidence to work with real world clients. And if you're up for it, and as an optional add-on, we'll even do a podcast of your solution. Once you've completed your final project, I'll then help you with your CV rewrites, your LinkedIn rewrites, and also provide you with 2 mock interviews for any interviews that you have coming up over that 6-month period. So essentially, the AWS Accelerator program is designed to help you in a way where you are confident in working with real-world solution. And the VIP add-on is going to give you someone in your corner supporting you and helping you along the way. If you're interested in the AWS Accelerator program, you can visit us at the iisacademy.com/p/AWS-accelerator. All the details are there. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you found this video really useful, and I hope you now realize that the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate certification is one of the most important certifications you can take if you want to get into cloud computing, and specifically if you want to work with AWS services. I'll see you folks in the next one. Thank you.